Okay, so get this right. We are diving into like a real life exorcism in Argentina.
Whoa.
Like the kind you usually just see in movies, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And our source for this is an article from the Christian Post.
Okay.
And it describes this video that surfaced online of priests performing this intense ritual on a 22-year-old woman.
Wow, that's really something. I think what's really wild is this is 2015.
Right.
This isn't like some distant past.
Exactly.
So it makes you say, like, are these beliefs about demonic forces more common than we think?
Yeah.
Even in today's world?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
And the article, I mean, it doesn't shy away from the details. Like, picture this, a Lutheran church.
Okay.
This young woman, her name is Laura, pinned to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Writhing, shouting.
Oh, my gosh.
They even, they use a crucifix.
Wow.
It's all very dramatic.
It really sets the scene. And then you have the bishop leading the exorcism, Manuel Acuna.
Okay.
And he doesn't mince words about his belief in the devil. He says, quote, "The demon exists. He's not an idea. He's not a theory. He's not something abstract. The devil is a personality and therefore has a strategy."
That's intense.
Yeah, it's not some vague notion for him. It's, a very real, powerful force.
Right. So based on the article, like what led them to believe that Laura was possessed?
Yeah.
Was it like a sudden change in her behavior or something else?
That's one of the questions that the article leaves unanswered.
Really?
Yeah. It focuses on the events of the exorcism itself.
Okay.
And the perspective of the priests. We know there was a witness, Augustus Amador Arevalo.
Okay.
And he was convinced that Laura needed this exorcism. But what led him to that conclusion?
Right.
The article doesn't say.
So it's sort of a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the mystery.
And speaking of mystery, there's this one detail that really stuck with me. At the climax of the ritual, one of the priests places something in Laura's mouth, and she suddenly falls silent.
Oh, wow.
So what was it?
Yeah, what was it?
Why include that detail and then leave us hanging?
Right. It's almost like they wanted to add to the intrigue.
Yeah.
But I think this is where we need to step back and consider, are there other possible explanations for Laura's behavior?
Yeah.
Outside of demonic possession?
Like what? You mean like, could there be psychological or medical reasons?
Exactly.
Okay.
The article presents a spiritual interpretation.
Right.
But it's important to consider alternative perspectives.
I see.
For instance, certain mental health conditions can manifest with similar outward behaviors.
Okay.
Like dissociative identity disorder, for example, could potentially involve shifts in personality and uncontrollable outbursts.
That's a good point. It makes me wonder if this, event could be viewed through a different lens entirely.
It certainly highlights how our interpretation of events is shaped by our existing beliefs. The article then shifts gears and brings in some biblical context.
Okay.
It quotes verses like Matthew 10.1,
right,
where Jesus gives his disciples authority to cast out unclean spirits. What do you make of that?
Well, to me, it seems like they're trying to establish a historical and theological basis for exorcism.
Okay.
Drawing a line from those ancient practices to what's happening in this modern day event.
That's a valid interpretation. But remember, the Bible is open to multiple interpretations.
Of course.
Even within Christianity, different denominations have varying views on the nature and practice of exorcism.
Right.
Some see it as a literal act of casting out demonic entities, while others interpret it more metaphorically, as a form of spiritual healing or inner transformation.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered those different perspectives.
It's crucial to understand that biblical interpretation isn't always straightforward.
Right.
Historical context, cultural influences, and individual beliefs all play a role.
I see.
Take Luke 11.18-19, for instance, where Jesus refutes claims that he casts out demons by the power of Beelzebub. It's a complex passage that raises questions about the nature of good and evil and how we identify them.
So you're saying that even these ancient texts can be understood in different ways?
Yeah.
Depending on who's reading them and when.
Exactly. And that brings us to Acts 19.11-16, where we see Paul performing miracles, and even his handkerchiefs being used to cast out evil spirits.
Wow.
This passage is often cited as evidence of the power of faith and the tangible impact of spiritual forces.
Okay, I'm starting to see the complexity here. We have this modern event rooted in these ancient beliefs.
Right.
And yet the meaning of those beliefs is still being debated.
Today,
yeah.
It highlights the enduring fascination with this idea of spiritual warfare,
right,
which is not limited to Christianity. Many cultures and religions have traditions of, invisible forces that can influence individuals,
right,
for better or worse. It taps into a deep-seated human intuition that there's more to reality than meets the eye.
So this isn't just about one exorcism in Argentina.
Right.
It's about grappling with bigger questions about the nature of reality itself. And that's where things start to get really interesting for me. Like it's like this event, this exorcism kind of throws a wrench into our modern, scientific worldview.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile these ancient beliefs with our, understanding of psychology and the human brain?
Right. That's the crux of it, isn't it? I mean, do we dismiss this as, mere superstition or mental illness? Or is there room for the possibility that there are forces at work we just don't fully comprehend?
Right. And I mean, the article, it clearly wants to draw a connection, between this modern event and these ancient beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like a challenge. Like, can you explain this with science alone?
And that's where the conversation gets really fascinating, right? Because even if we approach this from a purely scientific perspective, I think we have to acknowledge that our understanding of the human mind is still evolving.
Of course.
There's so much we didn't know about consciousness, the subconscious,
right,
and the potential for the mind to influence the body in ways we're only beginning to understand.
So even if we don't buy into the idea of demonic possession, like literally, there's still room for mystery and the unknown within the realm of science itself.
Absolutely. And that's what I find so compelling about this whole topic. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge.
Right.
And to question our assumptions about what's possible.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. And I think that sense of humility is essential,
Yeah.
when approaching any phenomenon that kind of pushes the boundaries of our understanding.
Okay, but let's bring this back to the article for a second.
Sure.
One thing that struck me is that this exorcism took place in a Lutheran church. I always thought exorcisms were more of a Catholic thing.
That's a common misconception.
Really?
While exorcism is perhaps most famously associated with Catholicism, the belief in spiritual warfare and the practice of exorcism are found in many different Christian denominations and even in other religions around the world.
So this isn't just some fringe belief held by a small group of people.
Not at all. It speaks to a much broader human experience.
Okay.
A sense that there are forces beyond our control that can influence our lives, for good or for ill. And it raises some fundamental questions.
Like what?
Like, what do we do when we're confronted with something we can't explain?
Right.
Do we seek answers in science, in religion, or somewhere in between?
Those are big questions. And to be honest, I'm not sure I have the answers. But I do think it's important to engage with them.
Yeah.
Even if they make us uncomfortable.
I agree. It's easy to dismiss things we don't understand as nonsense or superstition. But I think there's value in wrestling with these mysteries, in exploring different perspectives and in acknowledging that our current understanding of the world might be incomplete.
So what does this all mean for our listener?
Yeah.
What can they take away from this deep dive into exorcism?
Well, I think on a practical level, it encourages them to be critical consumers of information.
Okay.
When you're encountering extraordinary claims,
Yeah.
It's important to consider the source, the evidence, and alternative explanations. But beyond that, I think, this story, it kind of invites us to reflect on our own beliefs about the nature of reality, the power of the mind, and the limits of human knowledge.
I like that. So it's not just about whether or not you believe in demonic possession. It's about using this event as a springboard for deeper reflection on some of life's big questions.
Precisely. And those questions are ultimately personal. There's no right or wrong answer. What matters is that we engage with them honestly.
Yeah.
And openly.
And speaking of open-mindedness, the article mentions this organization called the International Association of Exorcists.
Oh, wow.
And that's a group I would love to learn more about.
Me too. What are their criteria for determining possession.
Right.
What methods do they use? Do they see their work as primarily spiritual, or do they collaborate with mental health professionals? It seems like there's a whole other layer to this topic we could explore.
Right. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion only to find, more onion underneath.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It's not just about finding answers. It's about uncovering more questions.
Yeah.
Expanding our understanding and embracing the mystery and complexity of the world around us.
Okay, so we've got this fascinating event, the Exorcism in Argentina, and we've touched on the biblical context and the scientific perspective, but there's one more piece of this puzzle I want to explore. The power of belief itself. I mean, we've talked about the possibility of alternative explanations for Laura's behavior, right?
Right.
But the article really emphasizes the priests' and witnesses' belief that she was possessed.
Yeah.
It makes you think, how much does belief itself shape our reality?
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
And one that's been pondered by, philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Right.
There's a growing body of research in fields like psychoneuroimmunology that suggests our beliefs and expectations can have a tangible impact on our physical and mental well-being. The placebo effect is a classic example of this.
Right.
People experiencing real improvements simply because they believe they're receiving an effective treatment.
So you're saying that belief itself can be a powerful force?
Yeah.
Even if we don't fully understand how it works?
Precisely. Think about the power of religious faith.
Okay.
People have reported miraculous healings, profound experiences of peace and joy, even radical changes in behavior.
Wow.
All attributed to the strength of their belief.
Huh.
And it's not just limited to religion.
Yeah.
We see this in other areas of life as well.
Like what?
Athletes who visualize success are more likely to achieve it.
Right.
Patients who believe in their ability to recover from illness often have better outcomes. Belief can act as a self-fulfilling prophecy, shaping our actions and influencing the results we experience.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we reconcile that with the skeptical scientific side of things? I mean, are we just saying that if we believe hard enough, anything is possible?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's not about abandoning critical thinking or embracing magical thinking.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that belief itself is a complex phenomenon with real world consequences. It can be a source of immense strength and resilience, but it can also lead to delusion and harm.
Right.
If it's not grounded in reality or if it's used to manipulate or exploit others.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yes.
Between open-mindedness and critical thinking.
Right.
Between acknowledging the power of belief and not falling prey to blind faith.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from this whole deep dive into exorcism.
Yeah.
It challenges us to examine our own beliefs, to question our assumptions, and to be willing to engage with perspectives that might differ from our own.
It's funny. We started this conversation with a story about a supposed demonic possession.
Right.
And we've ended up talking about the power of belief and the complexity of the human mind.
Yeah. It just goes to show that even the most seemingly outlandish topics can lead to profound insights if we're willing to dig a little deeper.
Well said. So to our listener, we leave you with this. In a world that often feels divided,
Yeah.
between those who believe in the unseen and those who rely solely on the tangible, where do you find yourself? What role does belief play in your life? And how do you navigate the tension between faith and reason? Between the known and the unknown.
Remember, the world is a nuanced place.
Yeah.
And often the most enriching perspectives lie somewhere in between the extremes.
That's a good point.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that wonderful curiosity alive.
And if this deep dive has sparked a thirst for more, we encourage you to check out that International Association of Exorcists.
Oh, yeah.
Mentioned in the article. You never know what fascinating insights you might uncover. Until next time, keep diving deep.